Wow, I got the goosebumps. Hello, everyone. My name is Jesse Sahota. I am your common sense candidate in Delta. I want to welcome you to our Tsawwassen First Nations land in our beautiful riding of Delta, and I have an important question for you. After this lost liberal decade with costs and crime up and our economy down and under America's thumb, do you think the Liberals deserve a fourth term? We don't either, and I want to introduce to you our common sense conservative candidates from all over BC that are here with us today. Marie Rogers. Zach Siegel. The handsome Mauro Francis. Avi Nair. Ravinder Bhatia. Harjeet Singh Gill. Rajveer Dallon. Sukhmin Gill. The Honorable Carrie Lynn Finley. Lita Cabal. Teiko Van Popta. And Sukh Pandher. Also in attendance, our common sense Mayor, George Harvey. It's time to put Canada first for a change with a new Conservative government that will act taxes, build homes, unleash resources, stop crime, and bring home jobs and stand up to Trump from a position of strength. Common sense Canadians like yourself know that we need change. I'm here to tell you more about Pierre Poilievre, the only man who can bring real and meaningful change to Canada for Canadians. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing to you Ana Poilievre. Ana is an entrepreneur, dedicated advocate against human trafficking, and a staunch supporter of women's empowerment. Born in Venezuela and raised in Montreal, Ana moved to Ottawa in 2006, where she met her husband and future Prime Minister Pierre Poilievre in 2012. They married in 2017. An active member of the Conservative movement, she is the driving force behind the Conservative merch that we all love, and Pierre's #1 supporter. In 2024, she launched Their Stories Matter, an online platform dedicated to giving voice to survivors of human trafficking. Ana is committed to supporting women and elevating them through her online magazine, Pretty and Smart. Thank you, thank you. And led her forward initiative, which seeks to pay it forward by inspiring, connecting, and elevating women. But she will tell you that her greatest accomplishment and most important role is being a supportive wife and a proud mother of Valentina and cute little Cruz. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Ana Poilievre.
Travel the world. pleasure to be here. What a fantastic weather. Thank you all. Well, here we are, where we must decide whether we're going to elect for a fourth time a liberal government that has left us with a weakened economy, rising crime, and a country so divided, or are we going to elect a conservative government who's going to put Canada first for a change? It's such a pleasure to be here. This journey began about 3 years ago for my husband and our family, when Pierre decided to run for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada. Ever since, he has been traveling from coast to coast to coast, so that he can step away from the Ottawa bubble and to listen Canadians directly. Because what we need is a government of the people, by the people. Leadership is not born in the boardroom of the elites. Leadership is not born from fancy titles and degrees. Leadership is born from the love of our country, patriotism, our true north, strong and free. But, my husband has been at this for way more than 3 years. Pierre spent most of his adult life right here, at home, fighting for our youth, our seniors, our families, our Canadians to always, always put Canada first. So, when Mr. Carney says that my husband doesn't know how the world works, I'll tell you what. My husband knows how Canada works and how to make it work for all of us. Now, I am very proud to stand by my husband's side, and I truly believe that all of his policies are going to help all of us. But in order to understand why we're doing this, you need to know the man and the family behind it all. My husband, he was born from a teenage mother who gave him out for adoption to 2 school teachers from Saskatchewan. His family worked really hard, very humble beginnings, and they lived paycheck to paycheck. Pierre had to fight for everything in his life. Nothing was given to him. And I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and my family immigrated here in Canada when I was 8 years old in 1995. We lived in the east end of Montreal in a small basement apartment, all 6 of us cramped up in there. My father, who was a bank manager, had to trade his business suits, come here, wear secondhand clothes, and pick up fruits and vegetables, because that's all he could do to feed our family. Eventually, he had 3 minimum wage jobs in one day. He would wake up at 5 a.m., deliver the newspaper, 7 a.m., head to the factory where he was working making socks, come home at 3 p.m., grab a bite, take a shower, go on and clean offices from 5 until 9 p.m. 3 jobs in one day just to feed our family. Later on, when I turned 17, I moved out of home and became 100% financially independent. By the time that I was 19, I packed up my suitcase, left Montreal, moved to Ottawa, took a student loan, found a job. I put myself through university, paid for my rent, paid for my food, and did it all by myself. And by the time that I was 25, I had graduated, and I had a pretty good job. This was a few months before I met my husband. I was working in the Senate. And I had saved enough money, $25,000, to put a down payment on a little townhouse, a 2-bedroom, in the east end of Montreal. This, ladies and gentlemen, was in 2012. That townhouse was $230,000. That was the Canadian promise. If you work hard, you can get ahead and have a good life. So that's what we are fighting for, to restore the Canadian promise so you can afford a home in a safe street. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been such a pleasure to stand by my husband's side every single day of this campaign, fighting with him so that we can restore the Canadian promise all together. So we need all of you to get out and vote. If you want some change, you must get out and vote. And it has been my pleasure to share my husband with all of you, the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre.
British Columbia, who's voting for change? Change, change, change. Who's voting for lower taxes for a change? Who's voting for food and housing you can afford for a change? Who's voting for safe streets for a change? Qui va voter pour le changement, mes frères et sœurs canadiens? Qui va voter pour de nourriture et de logements abordables pour faire changement? Qui va voter pour des rues sécuritaires pour faire changement? We're voting for change because we love this country and we want every single person to have the promise of Canada, that anyone who works hard can have a great life in a beautiful, affordable home on a safe street under our proud flag. That's the change we need. That's the hope we offer. Now let's vote to bring it home. What an incredible honor to be introduced by the great Jesse Zodo, your very own candidate here in Delta. We call Jesse the gentle giant. Big, strong guy. How tall are you? What, 6'3"? 6'3" and growing. I think he's 6'6" with inflation, though, eh? Jesse, of course, is a wrestler, a black belt jiu-jitsu martial artist. In fact, he coaches our youth, our young people who need a start at life, but particularly those who are disadvantaged and want to learn how to stay fit, disciplined, and work on a team. He started off with humble beginnings. It's really the story of Canada. Jesse's mother worked doing the dishes over at the White Spot, right? Anybody go to eat at the White Spot from time to time? Good restaurant. His father was suffering with some illnesses, so his mother had to earn the living for everybody, and they had to feed both Jesse and his brother, who's another incredible Hulk. So that's a lot of food. But starting from those humble beginnings, Jesse was able to work his way through school, through his sporting triumphs, and then on to become a police officer, to serve his community with the pride of wearing the uniform and keeping all of us safe. And now he's en route to serving his community again, fighting for change so that the people in Delta can afford their homes and their food, and their children can be safe in their streets. He's the ultimate servant, and he is going to be the symbol of the Canadian promise when he's elected on Monday. Let's bring it home with Jesse Zodo. Jesse is only afraid of two people in the entire world. One, his mother, and two, our whip, Carrie Lynn Finlay. Yeah. She's sitting next to him to make sure he behaves himself. But I relate a lot to Jesse's story. You know, I started off very humble beginnings as well, adopted by two school teachers. But they always raised me to believe that if I worked hard, I could do anything in Canada, that I'd have a great life. In fact, that anybody who got through school and got a job could afford a nice house on a safe street. My wife was able to buy her house in her 20s. That was before me, so I can't take any credit for that. And that wasn't that long ago. It was about 13 years ago. And a lot of neighborhoods around here, people didn't even need to lock their doors not long ago because it was so safe and tranquil and even uneventful. But how things have changed. After this lost Liberal decade, crime and chaos is raging out of control. Young people can't go and play soccer until their parents have formed a row and walked the distance to make sure that the soccer field is not filled with crack pipes and syringes. Yes, there's more and more homeless. You're right. Homelessness is up at record highs across the country. Homeless encampments now replace what were once tranquil, beautiful playgrounds for children. His plan is to make it even worse. Mark Carney's plan is to do exactly what Trudeau did on steroids. More spending, more taxes, more soft on crime. We can't afford 4 more years of the Liberals. We need a change. I love you too. That's what we're fighting for you and your family to have change in this country. In fact, the question that he asked about Mark Carney, Mr. Carney, he adopted Justin Trudeau's election platform. You believe this? Literally verbatim. It was written for Trudeau before the former Prime Minister had stepped down. And when Carney took over, they opened the document and they did Control F and they simply swapped out the name Trudeau for Carney. And they said that's change. Well, maybe it's a change in the spelling, but it's not a change in the plan. You know, Trudeau had planned to add over $100 billion of additional debt over the next 4 years. Along comes Mark Carney and says he wants to stack another $130 billion on top of that. So you combine the Trudeau plan, with Carney's promises, you get $250 billion of additional debt added that will drive up the cost of food, gas, and interest payments on our families. It'll mean life becomes even more expensive, and our economy is under even greater risk. In fact, you know, it devalues our dollar, exactly right. By spending money we don't have on things we don't need, it devalues the purchasing power of your money, just like they've done for the last 10 years of Liberal government. My friends, after the lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime, we cannot afford a 4th Liberal term. We need a change with a new Conservative government that will bring home affordability and safety for all of our people. And now, if you want to know what the country will look like after this government, if this government, God forbid, is reelected to a 4th Liberal term, then look no further than the report that they published. They call it the Social Mobility in Question, Future Lives Report. There's a section, it's called 2040, More Snakes Than Ladders. That's a quote. Can you imagine that? What a quote. It's a section on what life is going to be like in 2040. More snakes than ladders. You've got it. It's a game to them. That's right. They think that they can play games with your life and your future and the food and the homes that you buy and the crime that is in your street. For them, it's all just a theory. Let me read directly from this report. In 2040, upward mobility is almost unheard of in Canada. Hardly anyone believes they can build a better life for themselves or their children through their own hard work. However, many worry about sliding down the social order. Now, that's a lot of bureaucraties, but let's just translate it into plain language. No matter how hard you work, you can't get ahead and you'll probably fall further behind. Then they say in 2040, owning a home is not a realistic goal for many. Most new homeowners get help from family members. Some take out intergenerational mortgages and have several generations of families living together. Now, let's be clear about this. They're saying that by 2040, instead of inheriting wealth from your older generation, you're going to inherit a mortgage that is going to take several generations to pay off the same mortgage. In Canada, we used to pay off mortgages in 25 years. So you could be mortgage-free in your 50s and enjoy a wonderful retirement. How quickly that has changed after the lost Liberal decade. And they see it getting even worse, where, quote, people see inheritance as the only reliable way to get ahead. People rarely mix with others of different socioeconomic status. In other words, there's a tiny group of very wealthy people that are separate and above, and everyone else works to pay the bills of the country. Capital investment in new enterprises may concentrate in the hands of a small number of very wealthy people. Property ownership, and by extension wealth, may become even more concentrated if younger generations abandon the idea of single-family dwellings in favor of renting or forming alternative households. And finally, they go on to say, more people may struggle to afford rent, bills, or groceries. The resulting stress could worsen mental health. It goes so far to say that by 2040, food will be so expensive that people will not even bother going to the grocery store anymore because they know they won't be able to afford it. So how will they eat? Well, I'm going to quote again. People may start to hunt, fish, and forage in public lands and waterways without reference to regulations. So, and this after they want to ban hunting rifles. So I guess you got to be pretty good at archery. Does anybody know how to do some archery? You better learn, because under the Liberal plan, that's the only way you're going to have a meal on your plate. My friends, after the lost Liberal decade, a lot of people would say that what I've just described here is already the case and getting worse. But it doesn't have to be this way. We in Canada believe in having hope. Hope for a better day. Hope for affordable food. Hope to restore the Canadian promise. Hope for a change. Après la décennie perdue, bring it home. Après la décennie perdue des libéraux, des coûts et la criminalité qui augmente, on ne peut pas payer le prix d'un quatrième mandat libéral. Il faut que ça change avec un nouveau gouvernement conservateur qui va couper la bureaucratie, les consultants, les impôts et les taxes, pour rendre la vie abordable et nos rues sécuritaires. C'est ça le changement qui est en jeu pour des élections. Et nous avons un plan pour ce changement. We have a plan to bring home that change. In fact, the plan is called Change, for affordable life, for safe streets, for Canada First. Now, I've got some bad news for our politicians who are here today. Just for the politicians. Everyone else gets good news. All right, here's the bad news this lineup of candidates is going to have to live with. I'm here to tell you, your summer vacation is canceled. All right? You didn't do anything wrong. In fact, it's because you're going to be doing a lot of things right. We are announcing there will be 100 days of change. 100 days. 100 days to pass 3 new laws. The Affordable Food and Homes for a Change Act, the Safe Streets for a Change Act, and the Bring Home Our Jobs for a Change Act must be passed before the politicians go on summer vacation. We're going to get the job done for a change. We have a very clear plan to make our lives affordable. It starts by cutting back on the outrageous government expenses, which have nearly doubled during the time Justin Trudeau has been Prime Minister and Mark Carney has been his economic advisor. We will cut $55 billion of waste by cutting consultants, streamlining bureaucracy through attrition, cutting back on foreign aid to bring our money home to Canada, and bringing in a common-sense dollar-for-dollar law that requires we find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending. In this way, we will cut the Liberal deficit by 70% to bring down inflation and interest rates. We're going to make hard work pay again. So many people work so hard, and it's particularly here. All of you, whenever I come to the Lower Mainland, I constantly meet people who are working overtime. They look at their paycheck at the end of the month, and they realize the government got more of the money than they did. This is the fine you pay for the crime of hard work that we call income tax. It will change. We want hard work to pay off for a change, and that's why I'm announcing that a Conservative government will cut income tax by 15%, so you bring home your paycheck for a change. But we're not going to stop there. You need cars, you need homes, you need all of those things which are already being overtaxed. So let's talk about cars. Now, the Liberals want to bring in a $20,000 tax on gas and diesel-powered automobiles. So, now, the Liberals say you can't drive gas and diesel-powered vehicles. They're going to start a mandate to phase them out next year. And every vehicle on the lot that goes above the quota that they have established will face a $20,000 tax. Who can afford a $20,000 tax on a new automobile? Anybody here? What about those people who live in rural and remote areas that can't survive with electric vehicles, particularly in rural Canada? Les gens dans les régions n'ont pas le choix d'utiliser une voiture électrique. Ils ont besoin de leur char, de l'essence et de diesel. Et on va protéger ça. On va mettre fin à la guerre à l'auto. You need to have the choice to make your own purchase on what vehicle you want. And so I am announcing today that Conservatives will axe the Carney tax, put you in the driver's seat, let you buy whatever car you want. And then there's the carbon tax. Now, the Liberals have put this tax in place over 7 years. The carbon tax law is still in effect to this day. Mark Carney's only complaint about the tax was that it was too low. He believed that it should go higher still. But he's hidden it from the gas pumps for the 28 days leading up to the election in order to trick you into giving the Liberals a fourth term, after which they would, if they get reelected, God forbid, they would bring the tax back higher than ever without a rebate once they no longer need your vote but still need your money. Just yesterday, Mark Carney was saying a carbon tax on Canadian industrial steel will help the steel industry. This is the same kind of the budget will balance itself thinking that got us into so much trouble with Justin Trudeau. The taxes make you richer, the Liberals say. No, they make Liberals richer because they take our money and push out our jobs. Conservatives will axe the entire carbon tax for real, for good, for a change. And that will bring down the cost of the steel that goes into cars. We want our steel made in Canada. We want our cars made in Canada. As a result, we will axe the federal sales tax on Canadian-made automobiles. Bring home the production to Canada. We will also... No, he said, Mr. Carney says that Canadians don't need to use steel. This is the great economic genius. I mean, Every building would collapse on your head if you didn't have steel. And yet Mark Carney thinks taxing it doesn't affect me. How much would it drive up the cost of an apartment complex if all the steel in it has to pay a Carney carbon tax? The cost of vehicles, the cost of the food is not, what do we need for food? Fertilizer. They want a carbon tax on fertilizer. You tax the fertilizer, you tax the food. Who here thinks food prices need to go up further? No, we need a change. We need to get rid of the entire carbon tax on absolutely everything, and that is what is at stake in this election, but we will not stop there. Our hardworking seniors, many of them have decided that they want to continue contributing in our country and making a valuable offering of their wisdom and their knowledge by doing a few hours extra every week to supplement their pension. Well, our view is they shouldn't be punished for that, and that's why we have announced that Conservatives will allow seniors to earn $34,000 tax-free to reward their hard work and contribution. A tax-free contribution will allow them to get ahead. We want everybody's work to be rewarded, and that includes investment. We need to bring home our jobs to this country. We need to bring home production to our country, and that means removing the taxes, cutting taxes on work, investment, home building, and energy. You know, the number one cost in a new home here in British Columbia is taxes. Sales taxes, land transfer taxes, development charges, the list goes on. 60% of the cost of a newly built house in Vancouver, or $1.3 million, is government. Government bureaucracy, government taxes, delays, consultants, and countless other red tape and gatekeeping. Our view is that the money for new homes should go to the carpenters, electricians, and plumbers who actually build the homes, not bureaucrats who block them. And this is another, after the lost Liberal decade, housing costs have doubled. Mark Carney wants to keep and accelerate all of the same government programs that got us into the crisis in the first place. We won't get more housing by building more bureaucracy in Ottawa. We'll get it by cutting the taxes and the red tape in the communities where those houses are built. And that's why Conservatives will lead the charge. We will axe the federal sales tax on new homes to save you up to $65,000. We will pay municipalities to cut their development charges, to bring them down another $50,000 for over $100,000 in lower taxes on each new home built in the Lower Mainland. We will incentivize municipalities to speed up permits, free up land, and cut development taxes to build 15% more homes per year. We'll sell off federal land and buildings for 300,000 new homes to be built. Putting it all together, we will build 2.3 million homes over the next 5 years so you can put a roof overhead for a change. Bring a great life back to Canada. It's going to be an incredibly beautiful life for all Canadians when they can actually afford a home. But we need the great trades workers to build those homes. Boots, not suits. Are you in the trades? What do you do? You and your husband run a construction company. Great. And what trades do you employ? All right, everybody, get your resume in here. She's hiring electricians, plumbers, what else? Tile setters, carpenters, painters. Amazing. Anybody work in the trades here? Amazing. We need more of the resources to go to. That's why Conservatives have announced we will set aside funds to partner with union training halls to train 350,000 young people to go in the trades, to get busy building houses and resources and launching our economy. We'll bring in tax fairness. Our traveling trades workers are only allowed to write off $4,000 for all their travels in a year. That's not nearly enough, especially when CEOs get to write off an unlimited amount for their private jets. We'll bring in the Tax Fairness for Traveling Trades Workers Act so that you can write off the full cost of food, transportation, and accommodation to travel around this country, building the future of our economy. Build, build, build for a change. Yes, we will end tax havens and bring the money home. You're paying the taxes here. It's not fair that the elite, the well-connected elite like Mark Carney, get to ship his money abroad while he forces you to pay more here. We're going to close the tax loopholes and make sure that the multinationals and the corporate insiders pay their fair share so that you can pay less. That is part of the plan. Thank you. We want to bring home our jobs to Canada. That's why we're going to pass the Bring Home Our Jobs for a Change Act. As Prime Minister, this act will reverse the anti-development laws that the Liberals have brought in over the last decade. Of the last 10 years, there's the C-69, the anti-development law, the energy cap, the blockade on our natural gas liquefaction, the fact it now takes 17 years to get a mine approved. We will repeal the Liberal anti-development law C-69. We'll get rid of the energy cap. We will build pipelines, mines, LNG export plants off the west coast of British Columbia. This will bring billions of dollars of opportunities. In fact, you know, the single biggest infrastructure project in Canadian history was approved by Prime Minister Harper and facilitated by Conservative candidate Ellis Ross from the Haisla First Nation. It's the LNG plant. LNG Canada, $40 billion. Did you work there? Right on. You helped build LNG Canada. Now, Coastal GasLink, which is the pipeline that gets to LNG Canada. Now imagine if we did that 15 times. How many jobs would we have? How many hundreds of billions of dollars could we unlock in wealth for the people of British Columbia and the coastal First Nations, who will be the richest people in the world? This is what we're going to unlock by rapidly approving these projects. We have 1,300 trillion cubic feet of natural gas right underneath our feet. Gas that can be liquefied using our cold weather, our clean hydro, and we can ship it off to Asia in half the time it takes to go from the U.S. Gulf Coast. So that's what we're going to do, rapidly approve LNG projects to bring home the jobs to Canada and take the dollars away from the dictators for a change. But we need these jobs. These jobs, we also need a more powerful Canadian dollar. By unlocking our resources and selling them to the world will have to buy Canadian dollars. They have to buy the loonie. It comes up, and that means that the consumer has more buying power to bid on globally priced goods like food and fuel. A more powerful dollar means a more affordable life. By unlocking our resources, we are not just creating jobs and paychecks, we're giving you back the buying power that has been robbed over the last Liberal decade. That's what we need, strong dollars that buy more goods to reward the hard work of our people, not a weak Liberal dollar that's always falling because all they do is print money and block progress. We need to be a country, we're going to turn the money printer off and we're going to start buying and building more of the things that money buys for a change. Now, we want those dollars and paychecks to come home to safe neighborhoods. Because after the lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime, you cannot handle another 4 years of this. We know that this... Is there any crime around here? It's not safe? What's unsafe? You don't feel safe walking down the street. I talked to a guy this morning in the Lower Mainland. He's from Toronto, visiting. He said in Toronto, I don't know if you heard this, the police have actually told people, leave your keys at the front door so that when somebody breaks in, they were looking to steal your car, they won't harm your family. They can just take the keys in a polite way and make off with your vehicle. Now, this is actually the chief of police for the city of Toronto has given the people that advice. And you know what? This gentleman said he does it because he doesn't want his family to get stabbed or shot. Their lives are worth more to him than the vehicle that's in the driveway. But he shouldn't have to make that choice. He says every night when there's a creak or a sound in his house, he assumes someone is breaking in to get his keys. People should not have to live that way. They shouldn't have to worry that their car is gone in the morning that their kids are in danger on their streets. But yet, after the lost Liberal decade of catch and release bail, C-75, this law allows the same 40 offenders, 40 of them, to be arrested 6,000 times in Vancouver in 1 year. That means each one of these offenders was arrested on average every second day. And those are just the crimes for which they got caught. And the Liberals will keep this in place if they're reelected. The law requires the judge release the offender at the earliest opportunity and under the least onerous conditions. That's right in the Act. Then there's the C5, which is a house arrest law. If you're a rampant car thief, you get to do your sentence in your living room watching Netflix or playing Grand Theft Auto. It's crazy. You walk out the door anytime you want to go re-offend. And then there's the Paul Bernardo get out of jail free card that allows him to leave a maximum security penitentiary within and live in better conditions than many of our seniors and veterans. My friends, this madness has to change. And that's why within the first 100 days, we will pass the Safe Communities for a Change Act to repeal all these Liberal laws. No more catch and release bail, no more house arrest. We're putting Bernardo back in the slammer for the rest of his life. We will bring in mandatory life sentences for any mass trafficker of fentanyl, human traffickers, gun smugglers. We will pass a 3 strikes you're out law, a law that will require that anyone who is convicted of 3 separate serious dangerous offenses will be required to serve a minimum of 10 years with no possibility of bail, parole, probation, or house arrest, and they will never get out of jail unless they have a record of perfect behavior, clean drug tests, and they learned a marketable skill that will allow them to be employed when they leave prison. We're not putting people out to do more crime. We're going to fix them up, and if they behave well, they can get another chance. But we're not turning people loose on our streets to terrorize Canadians anymore. And finally, when it comes to mass murderers, we're not going to give them a bulk discount anymore. The idea of letting mass murderers out after 25 years, 3 or 4 years sentence for each life they took, is insane. And that's why I respectfully disagree with the court's decision on that, and I will use the notwithstanding clause to lock up mass murderers forever. Yes, we are going to fix the criminal code. We're going to bring home safety. But safety... Oh, thank you. I think she said Mexico loves me, but I don't know. I didn't know who they knew I was in Mexico. Muchas gracias. That's funny. $5,000 a month rent. 4 bedrooms, $5,000. That's insane. Built in 1969, and you work, how many hours a week are you working? All day. Is it getting any better? He's saying this guy works 3 jobs all day, every day. He's paying $5,000 for rent. Can you believe that? Well, that's the sad thing is you can believe it. That's the sad thing. You know, if I had told you 10 years ago that a guy would be working 3 jobs just to pay the rent, or that rent would rise to $5,000 a month, you'd have said, that's crazy. Well, we all saw it coming because the same policies, liberal policies, always lead to the same result. And why would you think it would be any different if we tried it for a 4th time in a row? You know, the Liberals have caused this mess where this gentleman has to work 3 jobs to pay $5,000 a month in rent. We have a rule in baseball, and it should apply in politics. 3 strikes, and you're out. And that includes for Liberals. Il faut que ça change. Un homme qui travaille 3 emplois juste pour payer le loyer, ça se peut plus. Les gens ne peuvent plus payer. On ne peut pas payer le prix d'un 4e mandat libéral. On a besoin d'un vrai changement pour de loyer et des hypothèques abordables dans les communautés sécuritaires. C'est ça mon but. C'est ça le changement pour lequel les gens doivent voter lundi prochain. My friends, that is the change that we're looking to make so that you can live in a safe neighborhood. But that safe neighborhood means we have to stop the drugs which are taking over our communities. Addiction has killed 50,000 people in the last 10 years because of the radical drug liberalization that seeks to subsidize and permit more drugs. Liberals have reduced the jail time for those who deal the drugs, and they've effectively sought to end prosecution of possession offenses altogether. 99% of our shipping containers come in totally uninspected. Where do you think the drugs, guns, and stolen cars move? In those shipping containers. So we have a real conservative plan for change to end this. 1, we will secure the borders with high-powered scanners that can look right in through the walls of those shipping containers and every other one to stop the drugs, guns, and stolen cars. We will have 2,000 more CBSA officers, boots on the ground. We'll have watchtowers that can scan the frontier and interrupt drones and other trafficking that comes across our borders. And we will pay for it by canceling the ridiculous multi-billion-dollar gun grab that targets law-abiding, lawful hunters and sport shooters. For a change. Furthermore, we will bring in life sentences for fentanyl trafficking of 40 milligrams. But when you're trafficking that much, you can kill 20 people. It is mass murder, and it should be sentenced accordingly. Secondly, we will end the tax-funded supply of opioids, and we will put the money instead into treatment and recovery services. Treatment and recovery. Counseling, group therapy, physical exercise. What's that? 28 days. Just to get in the door? Oh, you're lucky if you get it in 28 days. It's much longer than that in many places. Many places it's longer than 28 days to get in. You need it now. You're right. She says it's like a heart attack. When you're addicted to fentanyl, you're playing Russian roulette. Any day you can die. When someone is addicted to that poison, we need to have them in treatment immediately so that we can save their lives. Yeah. That's why we need change in 100 days. Our plan will treat 50,000 people with counseling, group therapy, physical exercise, yoga, job placement, and other activities that are proven to break the cycle of addiction. The money will only go to those organizations with a proven track record of getting people off drugs. There is hope to turn life around. When I met with the young people over at the Harvest House in Moncton, they said they were getting themselves turned around. They thanked me for my support. I said, no, don't thank me. I didn't come here. I'm not the one offering you something. I'm here to ask you for something. I have a job for you to do. You need to get better, because you're going to go back out on the street and you're going to grab the next person. You're going to drag them in here. They're going to get better. Then they're going to go out and grab someone else. And that cycle is going to defeat this addiction. My message to anyone out there suffering with drugs, have hope, hang on, help is on the way. We're going to bring our loved ones home drug-free. And we're going to make our nation safe and strong again. We need a strong health care is another thing we need to do. You know we have, this young lady was asking about health care. Do you know we have 20,000 immigrant nurses and 20,000 immigrant doctors, 32,000 nurses that cannot work in our system because they can't get a license to practice. You know, they say in Toronto, if you have a heart attack, don't call 911, call an Uber, because the driver is probably a doctor. That's a good point. I agree with you on that as well. I agree with you on that, and I will also say this. We have a plan for change. We will bring in a national Blue Seal standard that can be tested so that newcomers to Canada take a test, prove they're qualified, get working in our hospitals, helping reduce the wait lines. We will add thousands of new doctors to our system so that you can get the treatment that you deserve for a change. And we need to protect our country. We need to stand on our own 2 feet. We can no longer rely on the Americans or anyone else to keep us safe. We need to rebuild the great Canadian Armed Forces to support our troops. We will cut back on the foreign aid, the back office bureaucracy, the procurement boondoggles to reinvest in our Canadian military. We will build 4 Arctic icebreakers, buy the Poseidon surveillance aircraft, build new runways in the north, double the size of the 1st Patrol of the Arctic Rangers, fill the vacancies in the Army, Air Force, and Navy, and we will build the first Arctic base in Canada since the Cold War, CFB Iqaluit. Bring it home for a change. We will honor our veterans, ensuring they get the treatment and the help they need. Our young people who come out of the forces in their 30s and 40s will have a helmets to hard hats program second to none, allowing them to take the amazing skills they learned and apply them, earning 6-figure paychecks in the private sector, while at the same time keeping their pension so they don't get clawed back and punished for the crime of hard work. We're going to honor our veterans and give them a better future. For a change. The veterans really symbolize everything is great about our country. Sacrifice, common love for common country. Our heritage is one of service. We would not be here today were it not for the valiant sacrifice of so many who came before us. And as a result, we must always be a country that honors its past. We will end the cancel culture. We will stand up our statues, raise our flag, celebrate John A. Macdonald. We will reinstate the Canadian passport with the famous 5, Terry Fox, our soldiers and others. Our common pride and love of country will bring us together. We will be a nation, not of tax collectors and toll masters, of gatekeepers and grandees, of rulers and rule makers. No, instead, we are a nation of artists and entrepreneurs, of adventurers and freedom lovers, good one, of workers and warriors, of pioneers and patriots. What binds us together is the Canadian promise, la promesse du Canada, that everybody who works hard gets a great life in a beautiful, affordable house on a safe street protected by brave police and soldiers under our proud flag. Ce qui nous unit, c'est la promesse du Canada que chacun qui travaille fort ait une belle vie dans une maison abordable sur une rue sécuritaire sous notre drapeau canadien. That promise will bring us together again in a spirit of hope and optimism. And so I say to all those out there suffering and thinking of giving up, have hope. Change is on the way. To the single mother whose fridge, stomach, and bank account are all empty and doesn't know how she's going to feed her kids tomorrow, have hope. Change is on the way. To the veteran who's been left behind and forgotten about, have hope. Change is on the way. To those who are addicted to drugs and thinking about giving up, have hope. Change is on the way. Those who are afraid to go outside in their streets, have hope, because change is on the way. To the young couple desperate to buy an affordable home and start a family, giving their parents grandchildren, have hope. Change is on the way. On Monday, we need to vote for that change. We need to come out for that change. We need to bring about that change. My friends, let us vote to bring home the country we know, the country we love, Canada. Let's bring it home.
Something tender about, there's something hidden.